love summer. Hey pals, welcome back. It's safe to say that the weather here has been very British recently, and it's definitely got me itching to go on a trip somewhere. So in addition to my everyday carry, things like my phone, watch, and other essential devices, I'm usually taking 2 luggage items when I travel. My main suitcase, which is all my clothes, toiletries, and boring stuff inside, as well as a carry-on bag for all my larger tech items, which I thought you might be interested in learning a bit more about. So let's take a look at what's inside my tech bag. If you wanted to check out any of these products for yourself, I've left links to everything in the description below. I've got a couple of bags that I use regularly, but when I'm getting ready for a trip, the one that I find myself reaching for most is the Brevity Jumper Backpack. At a glance, the design looks a bit basic for a camera bag, especially when you compare it to some of the more popular options from brands like Peak Design or Nomadic, but that's a big part of why I like it so much. It doesn't bring attention to itself and makes me feel a bit more at ease when I'm carrying thousands of pounds worth of tech out in public. Despite its understated appearance, it's still super functional and has plenty of creator-focused features that have definitely made my life easier when traveling. It comes with these Velcro dividers for organising my camera and lenses inside the main compartment, and there's a strap above the side pocket to keep a small tripod secure. I also really like the secret pockets, which are a great place for hiding valuables or a tracking device. There's also a laptop section that's got plenty of room for my 14-inch MacBook Pro, but might be a bit of a squeeze if you're using a larger device. My only real complaints are that the shoulder straps are quite narrow and haven't got much padding, so they can get a bit uncomfortable over longer periods of time, and I find myself sort of shifting the weight around a lot. It's also not very rigid, so it's probably not the most protective option for camera gear. While I appreciate the bag's soft materials and lightweight structure for sort of general use, it doesn't fill me with the same level of confidence I have when using some of my other bags. These minor shortcomings aren't deal breakers for me personally, and I've really enjoyed using the Jumper Backpack. I have the larger version, which is the perfect size for my needs, and the minimal design works with pretty much any outfit too, so it's just a nice and versatile option for travel. Inside the laptop section, I have my 14-inch MacBook Pro, which I've been using as my main computer since late 2021. Even after almost 2 years of daily use, it's still powering through all my work with absolutely zero issues, which I guess is exactly what you want from a device that costs this much. So this has the 10-core M1 Pro chip, which was a slight upgrade from the base spec. This cost a fair bit more, but came included with 2 extra performance cores and a 1TB SSD, along with a 96-watt wall charger that allows for fast charging. This laddered structure seems to be something that Apple are continuing with the M2 versions, but I generally think the middle option usually represents the best overall value, and will probably give you a bit of extra time before you feel the need to upgrade in future. At least that's what I tell myself to make myself feel better. While I prefer laptops with a smaller form factor, I also really appreciate having features like multiple Thunderbolt ports and an SD card reader, so the 14-inch MacBook Pro is ideal for my needs. As expected, the battery life is starting to decrease after so many charge cycles, but aside from that, it's been an absolute workhorse, and I'm really happy with my choice. So I made the switch to full frame last year, and for the last 12 months or so, I've been using the Sony a7 Mark IV as my main camera. I briefly tested the a7S III, but I found the 12 megapixel sensor a bit limiting for my photography needs, so I switched to this instead, and it's just been a perfect companion for my creative work. I made a video a while back with all the details of how I rigged this camera for my YouTube setup, but it's also been great for travel. I'm using it with a 16 to 35 Grandmaster lens, which is surprisingly versatile for an ultra wide, and the 33 megapixel sensor means I can punch in to get a lot more range out of it. It's not a small camera, so there have been times when it's felt a bit cumbersome, but for those rare moments when an iPhone camera just isn't enough, this will get the job done without compromise. Obviously that larger sensor I talked about means much bigger file sizes, so these Samsung T7 Shield SSDs have become my go-to choice for all my storage needs. I've got a couple of 2TB drives, but they sell them in capacities up to 4TB, and the data transfer speeds should be more than enough for most people's workflows. Solid-state drives are a lot smaller than disk drives, so they're great for travel, and having less moving parts means they should be more reliable too. The T7 Shield's durable rubber housing also makes me feel a lot more secure about the safety of my files. They're not the cheapest, but I can tell you from experience that there's nothing worse than losing all your data because of a faulty drive, so I think they're 100% worth the investment. This video isn't sponsored, although I wish it was. I just really like these drives. My AirPods Pro 2 are a clear choice for 90% of my audio requirements, but occasionally I need a wired solution for things like in-flight entertainment or games consoles with limited Bluetooth connectivity. I have a few options for this, but recently I've been using the brand new Studio Pro headphones, which are the latest flagship device from Beats. This is actually the second pair of Beats I've tested recently. I picked up the Studio Buds Plus a few weeks ago for my video on transparent tech, and I was really impressed with how balanced they sounded. The Studio Pro headphones have continued to challenge my preconceptions, and they also sound really good. In the past, Beats have typically been a bit too bass heavy for my liking, but these have a much flatter frequency response, and the improvements to audio fidelity provide a really enjoyable listening experience. I also really like that these have inherited some of the features I enjoy on my AirPods, such as transparency mode and support for Siri. The design changes from the Studio 3 are subtle, but they definitely feel a bit more refined, removing some of the branding on the headband and updating the micro USB port to a USB-C connection that supports 24-bit audio. I also really enjoy the new color options. I was tempted to stick on my usual choice of matte black, but I decided to venture out a bit and try this sandstone option, which I actually think looks really nice. The Studio Pro are made from high quality materials and feel really good to touch. The ear cups are especially plush, so they're super comfortable to wear for an extended period of time. I do have one major gripe though. The controls on the left side of the headphones aren't dampened very well and can feel a bit cheap depending on where you click. Overall, they're a really well-rounded product and definitely one to consider if you're in the market for a pair of premium headphones that support a wide connection to take on your travels. I have two gaming devices that come with me on almost every trip. The first is my Nintendo Switch. It's such a good way to kill a few hours, and there's no better time to use it in handheld mode than when you're on the go, especially if you haven't got enough room for a laptop and there's no Wi-Fi. I've been having a blast playing Tears of the Kingdom recently. I'm always amazed at how well the Zelda titles run on a device with such modest specs, but I am hoping for a slightly more powerful handheld from Nintendo in future. The Switch is starting to feel super dated in 2023, and even though we've had some great titles over the years, there's definitely a limit to how well these games can be optimized. The second is my Analog Pocket, which takes everything that made the Nintendo Game Boy great and brings it to modern day standards. It combines a beautifully minimal design with a bright and punchy display, and with a resolution of 1600 by 1440p, it can play games at 10 times their original resolution. I've always been a huge fan of Pokemon games, and when I saw this, I knew I had to get one. I was super lucky to get selected for the first shipping group after pre-orders, so I've had mine for a while now, and it's been wicked picking up some of my original cartridges after almost 20 years. I try to keep the amount of chargers and cables I take with me on my travels to a minimum, but there's two devices that almost always go in my tech bag. The first is a wireless charger. There's so many good options to choose from these days, but I really like this Trio charger from Satechi. It makes a lot of sense for travel because it has a USB-C input, so I don't have to carry an extra cable that can be only used for one thing, and also the Apple Watch charger folds down, which means it's a lot more compact and can fit inside the laptop sleeve with my MacBook. The iPhone charger is only 7.5 watts, so it isn't the fastest, but it does have built-in magnets, which means you don't have to worry about it not being aligned with the coils properly, and then starting your day with no battery. The second is the SharkGeek Storm 2, which is arguably one of the best looking power banks you can get right now. Portable chargers are pretty boring for the most part, so being able to see the logic board, capacitors, and all the other internal components is just way more fun to look at. It's got a capacity of 25,600 mAh, so it's got more than enough power to comfortably charge all my everyday tech, while still being suitable for travel. It also has this tiny display which provides information on remaining battery life, onboard temperature, and real-time input and output wattage for connected devices. In addition to my main tech carry, there's some everyday essentials I pretty much always pack too. Small items which are just good to have on hand. AirTags are a must-have. It's very reassuring to see my bag's locations in real time, and if anything was to ever happen, it means I've got a way to track down my belongings. It's kind of weird to buy something you hope you'll never need to use, but these are a great travel purchase. I also carry the 96-watt wall plug that came with my MacBook Pro and an assortment of cables with me on all my trips. It's got enough output to quickly charge my devices, and having a USB-C port means it's compatible with pretty much all my tech these days. Lens wipes are also super important. I buy these in bulk because they're wicked for cleaning dust and fingerprints off my devices. I much prefer using these over a microfiber because the alcohol breaks down any skin oil or residue, and it doesn't leave any streaks afterwards. I recently picked up this selfie stick thing for my iPhone. I've seen a lot of people raving about this online, and I was getting a bit fed up of carrying my bulky camera tripod, so hopefully this will be perfect for taking quick shots of myself when I want to keep my gear a bit more streamlined. Finally, this one's a bit weird, but has been surprisingly useful. This is the Aperture MC, and it's an LED video light that actually has a lot more general utility than you'd think. It can get super bright and also has really strong magnets built in, so it can be a really convenient light source for illuminating small spaces. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully this gave you a bit of an insight to what tech comes with me on my travels. If you've got any recommendations on how I can improve any part of it, then please leave a comment. I'd love to hear it. I posted a video last year for the devices I use daily, like my phone, watch, and other everyday carry, but there has been quite a few changes since then, so I'll try and make an update for this soon. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss when it comes out. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.